I am not your tool for venting desires. My soul no longer belongs to Yash fell in love with a charming and successful businessman, but their relationship had always been kept in secret. Until one day, she grew tired of a life without love and decided she wouldn't stay for a moment longer. She had to escape immediately, with no looking back. Sir, we have a problem. What is it now? Your wife. She booked a flight early this morning and left for another country. She said she loved you for 3 years, but she just can't do it anymore. In the bustling city of New York, the year-end gala for the Kingston Corporation was in full swing. The air was alive with chatter, rumors floating through the crowd about one particular figure. I heard Alex Carter is still single. Apparently, he's got some issues. Issues? Single? That can't be true. Lauren Rees could only roll her eyes at the gossip. She knew better than anyone what Alex was truly like. Dominant, demanding, but also deeply private. He didn't care what people thought, and that included keeping their relationship a secret. As the crowd hushed, Lauren glanced up just as Alex walked through the doors, his presence commanding attention without a word. Her heart raced as she watched him move effortlessly through the room, looking straight past her. It was as if she didn't exist. A bold woman stepped forward, microphone in hand. Mr. Carter, do you have a girlfriend? His sharp gaze shifted briefly to the woman before moving again, locking with Lauren's for a fleeting moment. Her heart skipped a beat. What would he say? Would he acknowledge their relationship or stay silent, as always? He smirked lightly. Personal matters aren't for public discussion. The crowd pressed on. Come on, Mr. Carter. Give us something. Just tell us single or taken. His best friend, Ryan, chimed in with a laugh. Alex is single and off the market, folks. As pure as they come. The crowd roared with laughter, but Lauren's smile was thin. The pain simmered beneath the surface as she took another sip of her drink, hiding the turmoil within. Alex didn't stay long, leaving the gala soon after his brief appearance. Lauren, her friend Jenna nudged her. Alex Carter single? Did you hear that? Lauren forced a smile, ignoring the ache in her chest. Yes, single. How lucky for us all. By the time the event wrapped up, Lauren was emotionally drained. New York streets buzzed with life as she walked, lost in her thoughts. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from him. Might be late tonight. Usual place? She sighed, a mix of frustration and relief. Jenna teased her as she read the message. Your mysterious boyfriend finally getting back to you? Something like that. Lauren smiled faintly, keeping the truth to herself. She had been seeing Alex for over a year now, but the secrecy was wearing thin. He's got to introduce himself to us eventually. We're your best friends. Don't you want us to meet him? Jenna pleaded. Lauren shrugged. He's busy. Maybe one day. They exchanged more gossip about the gala, but all Lauren could think about was Alex. How much longer could she continue like this? How much longer would she be a secret? As she hailed a cab, she couldn't help but replay the evening in her mind. The whispers, the looks, and Alex's indifference stung deeper than she cared to admit. She didn't expect him to make a grand declaration, but every time he ignored her in public, it hurt. The penthouse where they met was luxurious, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It was his grand, modern, and immaculate, just like him. She slipped out of her clothes and into a bathrobe, her body aching with exhaustion as she stared at the skyline. This isn't enough, is it? She whispered to herself. Lauren woke from a restless sleep, tangled in her thoughts and the sheets. She had dreamed of drowning, suffocating under the weight of it all. And when she woke, Alex was there, kissing her deeply. His touch was both soothing and painful, a reminder of everything she both wanted and feared. You're awake, he murmured against her lips. You're back, she replied, her voice small. He said nothing, continuing to kiss her, his hand sliding down her sides. She melted into him, even as her mind screamed for clarity. Why did it always feel like this, half love, half control? Did you drink? He asked, his brow furrowing as he caught the scent of wine on her breath. I had a few glasses at the gala, she admitted, knowing he disapproved. He never liked when she drank, wore too much makeup, or deviated from the image he had crafted for her. His fingers brushed her cheek almost tenderly, but his voice held a sharp edge. "Next time, don't." Lauren's heart tightened as she wrapped her arms around his neck. "I missed you," she whispered, more to herself than to him. His response was silence. Lauren woke up early, preparing to leave Alex's apartment before he even stirred. The city outside was still asleep, shrouded in a soft dawn light that matched the haze in her mind. She looked at Alex's sleeping figure, wondering if it would always be this way, loving someone who kept her at arm's length. As Lauren moved through her day, she couldn't shake the feeling of loneliness creeping into her. She had friends, a good job, and a promising future, but Alex's shadow lingered over everything. He was a man of control, and she was trapped in his world, where she existed only on his terms. The rain began to fall softly against the city streets as Lauren made her way to their usual meeting place. Her mind was clouded with thoughts of the gala, of Alex's indifferent behavior, and of the life she was now leading, caught between being in love and feeling invisible. She arrived at his penthouse, feeling both anticipation and dread. Alex was already there, standing by the window, gazing out at the city lights. He didn't turn around when she entered, but his voice cut through the silence. "You're late," Lauren swallowed, setting her bag down by the door. Traffic was bad. Alex finally turned to face her, his expression unreadable. His eyes flicked over her, as if assessing her every movement. "I don't like waiting, Lauren." The tension in the air was thick, but Lauren had long grown accustomed to it. This was how it always was with him. He demanded perfection, and she had learned to provide it. "I'm sorry," she said softly, stepping closer to him. He didn't respond, simply pulling her into his arms and kissing her. His lips were firm, his grip tight. For a moment, she melted into him, allowing herself to believe that this was love. But the lingering ache in her chest reminded her that it wasn't. Not really. The following morning, Lauren awoke to an empty bed. Alex had already left, as he always did. She got dressed quickly, leaving the penthouse before the staff arrived. She couldn't afford to be seen. No one could know about their arrangement. The day dragged on as she worked through meetings and deadlines. Her mind kept drifting back to Alex, to the things she wished she could say but never did. Jenna had noticed her distraction and finally confronted her over lunch. "Lauren, is everything okay? You've been distant lately." Lauren forced a smile. "I'm fine, just tired." Jenna frowned, clearly unconvinced. "You can tell me, if something's going on with this mysterious boyfriend of yours, it's nothing." Lauren interrupted, cutting her off. "I promise." Jenna didn't push further, but her concern lingered. And as the conversation shifted to lighter topics, Lauren felt a pang of guilt. She hated lying to her friend, but the truth about her relationship with Alex was too complicated to explain. How could she tell anyone that she was in love with a man who would never love her back the way she wanted? That evening, Lauren returned to the penthouse. The familiarity of it was both comforting and suffocating. She knew every inch of the place, from the cold marble floors to the sleek furniture that screamed Alex's need for control. But it wasn't hers. Nothing about this life belonged to her. Alex arrived shortly after, his demeanor as cool and composed as ever. They ate dinner in silence, the only sound the clinking of silverware against plates. He never asked about her day, and she never offered any details. This was their routine. When they finished, he poured them both a glass of wine and sat across from her. His gaze was intense, making Lauren shift uncomfortably in her seat. "You're quiet tonight," he said, finally breaking the silence. Lauren looked down at her wine glass, swirling the red liquid inside. "Just thinking." "About what?" She hesitated, unsure of how to answer. Should she tell him the truth? That she was tired of being his secret? That she wanted more than stolen moments in the dark? "Nothing important," she replied instead. Alex's eyes narrowed slightly, but he didn't press her further. Instead, he reached out, taking her hand in his. His touch was warm, familiar, but it lacked the affection she craved. "Lauren," he said, his voice low and commanding, "you know how things are between us. I can't offer more than this." Her heart sank at his words, even though she had heard them before. She nodded, forcing a smile. "I know." He leaned in, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Good." But as he pulled away, Lauren couldn't shake the feeling that something inside her had shifted. She was no longer sure if she could accept being a part of Alex's world on his terms. She wanted more. She deserved more. Days turned into weeks, and Lauren continued to live in the shadow of her relationship with Alex. She played her role perfectly, always available when he needed her, never asking for more than he was willing to give. But the cracks in her facade were starting to show. One night, after a particularly long day at work, Lauren sat on the couch in her apartment, staring at her phone. Alex hadn't called or messaged her in days. It wasn't unusual for him to disappear for a while, but this time, it felt different. She was starting to feel like an afterthought in his life. Jenna's words echoed in her mind. "You can tell me, you know." Lauren closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. She had been bottling up her feelings for so long, pretending that everything was fine. But the truth was, she was lonely. She was in love with a man who didn't love her back the way she needed, and it was slowly breaking her. Without thinking, she grabbed her phone and dialed Alex's number. It rang once, twice, 3 times before going to voicemail. "Hi! You've reached Alex. Leave a message." Lauren hung up, her hands shaking. What was she expecting? That he would suddenly change? That he would finally choose her? The next day, she made a decision. She needed to talk to Alex. She needed to tell him how she felt, really tell him. It wasn't fair to either of them to continue living like this. That evening, when she arrived at the penthouse, Alex was already there, sitting on the couch with a glass of whiskey in his hand. He looked up as she entered, his expression unreadable. "We need to talk," Lauren said, her voice steady despite the nervous flutter in her chest. Alex raised an eyebrow, but gestured for her to sit. Lauren took a deep breath, steeling herself. "I can't keep doing this." His brow furrowed slightly, but he remained silent, waiting for her to continue. "I love you, Alex," she said, her voice trembling. "But I can't keep being your secret. I want more than this. I need more." For a long moment, Alex said nothing. He simply stared at her, his expression hard to read. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. "Lauren, you knew what this was from the beginning." Her heart clenched at his words, but she forced herself to stay calm. "I know, but nothing," he interrupted, his tone sharper now. "I never promised you anything more than this." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them back. She had known it would come to this. She had known that Alex wasn't capable of giving her what she wanted. But it still hurt. "I can't do it anymore," she whispered, her voice breaking. Alex stood up, his expression unreadable. "Then maybe it's time we ended this." Lauren's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected him to say it so bluntly, but deep down, she knew he was right. This was the end of their relationship, the end of whatever it was they had. She stood as well, her legs feeling shaky beneath her. "I guess it is." Without another word, she turned and walked out of the penthouse, the door clicking shut behind her. As she stepped out into the cold night air, a wave of sadness washed over her, but there was also a sense of relief. For the first time in a long time, she was free. Lauren had expected the aftermath of her breakup with Alex to be filled with heartache, but instead, there was an odd sense of clarity. The days passed, and she found herself adjusting to life without him. The void was there, but it wasn't as unbearable as she had imagined. Work kept her occupied, and she started spending more time with her friends. Jenna, ever the supportive one, noticed a change in her almost immediately. "You look lighter," Jenna remarked one evening over drinks. "Did something happen?" Lauren took a sip of her wine and smiled. "I ended things with Alex." Jenna's eyes widened in surprise. "Really? You never said anything." "It just happened," Lauren shrugged. "It wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do." Jenna reached across the table and squeezed Lauren's hand. "I'm proud of you. You deserve someone who doesn't keep you a secret." The words stung a little, but Lauren knew they were true. For too long, she had let herself be defined by her relationship with Alex. Now, she was determined to find her own path. As the weeks rolled into months, Lauren focused on herself. She picked up old hobbies, started going to yoga classes, and even considered moving to a new apartment. Life felt different, simpler in a way. One Friday evening, after a long day at work, she found herself back at the yoga studio. It had become a new sanctuary for her, a place where she could clear her mind and just be. "Hey, Lauren, right?" A voice called out as she was rolling up her mat. Lauren looked up to see a man smiling at her. He looked familiar, tall, dark-haired, and kind-eyed. She recognized him from a few of the classes she had taken. "Yeah, that's me," she replied, returning the smile. "I'm Jason," he said, extending his hand. "I've seen you around here a few times. How's it going?" "Good, thanks," Lauren replied, shaking his hand. "Just trying to unwind after a long week." Jason chuckled. "I know the feeling. Yoga's been a lifesaver for me. Helps keep the stress at bay." Lauren nodded in agreement. "Definitely. I started coming a few months ago, and I think it's the only thing keeping me sane." They chatted for a few more minutes, the conversation flowing easily. Jason was warm and friendly, and Lauren found herself enjoying his company. It was nice to talk to someone who wasn't wrapped up in the complicated web of her past. As they walked out of the studio together, Jason glanced at her. "You want to grab a coffee or something? There's a great place just down the street." Lauren hesitated for a moment. It had been a while since she had gone out with anyone, and the thought of dating again was daunting. But Jason seemed genuine, and there was something about him that made her feel at ease. "Sure," she said, smiling. "Why not?" Over the next few weeks, Lauren and Jason started seeing each other more often. They met for coffee, went to the same yoga classes, and even had a few casual dinners. Jason was easy to be around, and for the first time in a long while, Lauren felt like she could just be herself. One evening, after a particularly tough yoga class, they found themselves walking through a quiet part of the city, the cool breeze carrying the scent of freshly fallen leaves. Jason turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "You seem different lately," he said. "Like you've let go of something heavy." Lauren glanced at him, surprised by the observation. "I guess I have. I've been through a lot recently, but I'm trying to move forward." "Yeah? What kind of stuff?" For a brief moment, Lauren hesitated. She hadn't told Jason much about her past, especially not about Alex. But something about Jason made her feel like she could open up. "I was in a relationship for a long time," she began slowly. "It wasn't a bad relationship, but it wasn't what I needed. I ended it a few months ago." Jason nodded, his expression understanding. "That must have been hard." "It was," Lauren admitted, "but it was also freeing. I realized I was holding onto something that wasn't really there." Jason looked at her, his eyes soft. "I'm glad you let go, Lauren. You deserve to be happy." His words struck a chord with her, and for the first time in a long while, Lauren felt like she was truly moving on. The weight of her past was lifting, and the future no longer felt so uncertain. But as life often goes, the past has a way of resurfacing when least expected. One afternoon, as Lauren was leaving her office, she noticed a familiar figure standing by the entrance. Her heart skipped a beat. It was Alex. He hadn't changed much, still as sharp and composed as ever. His suit was immaculate, his expression calm, but there was something different about him. He seemed more approachable, less distant. "Lauren," he said, his voice smooth as ever. She stopped in her tracks, unsure of what to say. It had been months since they had last spoken, and seeing him now felt surreal. "Alex," she finally said, her voice steady. "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to talk," he replied. "Do you have a minute?" Lauren hesitated. Part of her wanted to walk away, to leave the past behind once and for all. But another part of her was curious. What did Alex want after all this time? "Okay," she said, crossing her arms. "I'm listening." Alex took a deep breath, something she had never seen him do before. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about what happened." Lauren raised an eyebrow. And I realized that I never gave you what you deserved," he admitted. "I was selfish, Lauren. I kept you at arm's length because I wasn't ready to face my own feelings." Her heart clenched at his words, but she remained composed. "So why are you telling me this now?" "Because I don't want to lose you," Alex said, his voice softer than she had ever heard it. "I made a mistake, and I want to make things right." Lauren stared at him, her mind racing. This was the moment she had dreamed about for so long, Alex finally admitting that he cared, that he wanted more. But now that it was happening, It didn't feel the way she had imagined. She shook her head slowly. Alex, you can't just come back into my life and expect everything to go back to the way it was. I know, he said quickly, but I'm willing to work for it. I want to be with you, Lauren. For real this time. Her chest tightened, a mixture of emotions swirling inside her. There was a time when she would have jumped at this opportunity, when she would have done anything to be with Alex. But now, things were different. I don't know if that's possible, Lauren said softly. Alex stepped closer, his eyes pleading. Please, just give me a chance. Lauren took a deep breath, her mind reeling. This was the moment she had to make a choice. She could give Alex the second chance he was asking for, or she could walk away and continue building the life she had started to create for herself. And so, Lauren stood at the crossroads of her heart, faced with the question that had lingered in her mind for months. Could she truly move forward with her life, or was she destined to be pulled back into Alex's world? Lauren's mind buzzed as she walked away from Alex, her thoughts spiraling into confusion. She had spent months trying to let go of him, to move forward and build a new life. And now, here he was, asking for a second chance. Her heart felt torn in two. She met Jason for dinner that evening, trying to push thoughts of Alex to the back of her mind. Jason had become a comforting presence in her life, steady, kind, and uncomplicated. He didn't demand anything from her, and that simplicity had been exactly what she needed after Alex. As they sat at a cozy corner table in a small Italian restaurant, Jason noticed her distraction. Hey, everything okay? He asked, his brow furrowing with concern. Lauren forced a smile, pushing her pasta around her plate. Yeah, just a lot on my mind. Jason reached across the table, placing his hand over hers. You know you can talk to me, right? If something's bothering you. She hesitated for a moment, then decided to be honest. Alex showed up today. He wants to try again. Jason's expression remained neutral, though Lauren could see the tension in his jaw. What did you say? I didn't really give him an answer, she admitted. I didn't know what to say. Jason was quiet for a moment, his fingers still resting lightly on hers. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm but firm. Lauren, you've been doing so well. You've moved on, started to rebuild your life. Do you really want to go back to all that? Lauren bit her lip, her heart aching with the weight of the decision. Jason was right, she had come so far since her breakup with Alex. She had found a sense of peace, a new rhythm to her life. But Alex had been a huge part of her past, and part of her still longed for the connection they once had. I don't know, she whispered. I thought I was over him, but seeing him today, it brought everything back. Jason nodded, his expression softening. I get that. It's hard to let go of someone you loved. But just remember why you left in the first place. He didn't treat you the way you deserved. Lauren looked up, meeting Jason's steady gaze. There was no judgment in his eyes, only understanding. And in that moment, she realized how different her life had become since meeting him. Jason represented stability and a future free from the complications of her past. Alex, on the other hand, was a reminder of the love that had consumed and confused her. You're right, Lauren said quietly. I can't go back to that. Not again. Jason squeezed her hand gently, offering her a reassuring smile. Good, because you deserve better. The days passed, and Lauren made a conscious effort to stay focused on the present. She didn't reach out to Alex, and though his words had stirred something inside her, she knew that giving him another chance would only drag her back into the same cycle. Jason continued to be a grounding presence in her life. They spent more time together, and their relationship grew stronger. It wasn't the whirlwind passion she had experienced with Alex, but it was real, solid, and full of mutual respect. One afternoon, as they walked through Central Park, Jason suddenly stopped, turning to face her. I've been thinking, he began, a nervous smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. We've been spending a lot of time together, and, well, I really care about you, Lauren. Lauren smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. I care about you too, Jason. He took a deep breath, his eyes locking with hers. I know things have been complicated with your past, but I want you to know that I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere, and I'd like us to be more than just casual. What do you think? Lauren's heart swelled at his words. She had been waiting for something like this, something real and honest, free from the secrecy and pain that had defined her relationship with Alex. Jason was offering her stability, and for the first time, she felt ready to accept it. I'd like that too, she said softly, her smile widening. Jason's face lit up, and he pulled her into a gentle embrace. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Lauren felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. This was what she had been searching for, a love that didn't come with conditions or complications. However, life rarely stays simple for long. Just as Lauren began to settle into her new relationship with Jason, Alex resurfaced once again. This time, he didn't wait for her to come to him. He showed up at her apartment late one evening, his eyes stormy and his demeanor intense. "Lauren, we need to talk," he said, his voice urgent. She stared at him, caught off guard by his sudden appearance. "Alex, it's late. What are you doing here?" "I couldn't stop thinking about you," he confessed, stepping closer. "I made a mistake letting you go. I've realized I can't live without you." Lauren's heart pounded in her chest, torn between the history they shared and the new life she was building. "Alex, I told you things are different now. I'm with someone else. I don't care," Alex said, his eyes locking onto hers with fierce determination. "I love you, Lauren." "I never stopped." Her breath caught at his words. For so long, she had wanted to hear him say that, to acknowledge the feelings she had always known were there but had never been spoken aloud. But now, hearing them, she felt only confusion. "Alex," she began, but he cut her off. "I know I messed up. I know I kept you at a distance, and I know I hurt you, but I'm ready to change. I'm ready to give you everything you wanted." Lauren shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "It's too late. I've moved on." "With Jason?" Alex scoffed. "He can't give you what we had." Lauren took a step back, trying to regain her composure. "What we had wasn't healthy, Alex. I loved you, but I was always waiting for something more, and you never gave it to me." Alex's face softened, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. "I know. I'm sorry, but I'm here now, and I'm asking you to give me another chance." Lauren stared at him, her mind swirling with memories of their time together, the highs and lows, the passion and the pain. She had loved Alex deeply, but she had also been broken by him. "I can't," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Alex's expression hardened. "You're really choosing him over me?" "I'm choosing myself," Lauren said, her voice stronger now. "For once, I'm choosing what's best for me." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with unspoken words and regrets. Alex stood there for a moment, his jaw clenched, before finally turning and walking away. As the door closed behind him, Lauren let out a shaky breath, her body trembling with the weight of the decision she had just made. It was the hardest thing she had ever done, but she knew it was the right choice. In the days that followed, Lauren threw herself into her new life with a renewed sense of purpose. Jason was by her side, supportive and understanding, and their relationship blossomed. They went on weekend trips, shared quiet evenings at home, and built a foundation of trust that felt unshakable. But every now and then, Alex would creep back into her thoughts, his eyes, his words, the way he had made her feel. It wasn't easy to forget someone who had once meant so much, but Lauren reminded herself that she had made the right decision. She deserved a love that didn't come with conditions or complications. And for the first time in her life, she felt free. Lauren's life settled into a new rhythm after her final confrontation with Alex. She had chosen a path for herself that felt right, one that prioritized her happiness and well-being. Jason continued to be a steady presence in her life, and their relationship grew stronger with each passing day. But as with any relationship, challenges arose. As the months passed, Lauren found herself reflecting on how different things were with Jason compared to Alex. There were no grand gestures, no emotional highs and lows, and sometimes she missed the intensity she had shared with Alex. It was a different kind of love, calmer, more secure. She had to remind herself that this was what she wanted: stability, safety, and a future. One Saturday morning, As they sat together in her apartment, sipping coffee and reading the news, Jason turned to her. "Lauren, I've been thinking," he said, his voice thoughtful. "We've been together for a while now, and things are going really well." Lauren looked up from her book, sensing where this conversation was headed. "Yeah, they are," she agreed, smiling. Jason set his coffee cup down and took a deep breath. "I want us to take the next step. I'm thinking about moving in together." The suggestion wasn't entirely unexpected, but it still caught Lauren off guard. Living together? She hadn't given it much thought, but now that Jason had brought it up, she realized that it was a natural progression. They were spending most of their time together anyway, and she cared about him deeply. But something inside her hesitated. "That's a big step," Lauren said carefully, her mind racing. Jason smiled softly, understanding her hesitation. "I know, but I really think we're ready. I love you, Lauren, and I want to build a future with you." Lauren's heart swelled at his words, but at the same time, she felt a familiar pang of doubt. Could she really commit to something this serious? She had thought she was ready, but the idea of living with someone, of merging her life completely with Jason's, brought back memories of her past. Memories of Alex. She took a deep breath, trying to push the thoughts of Alex aside. This was about Jason, not him. Jason was offering her the kind of love and stability she had always wanted. She owed it to herself to at least consider it. "I love you too," she said, reaching for Jason's hand. "I just need a little time to think about it." Jason nodded, his smile reassuring. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." Over the next few weeks, the idea of moving in with Jason weighed heavily on Lauren's mind. She discussed it with Jenna over lunch one day, hoping for some clarity. "So, he wants to move in together?" Jenna asked, raising an eyebrow. "That's huge." "I know." Lauren sighed, stirring her iced tea absent-mindedly. "It's just, I don't know if I'm ready." Jenna leaned forward, her expression serious. "Do you love him?" "Yes," Lauren replied without hesitation. "I do." "Then what's stopping you?" Lauren hesitated, unsure of how to put her feelings into words. "It's not that I don't want to be with him. I guess I'm just scared." "Scared of what?" Jenna pressed gently. "Scared that I'm making the wrong choice," Lauren admitted. "Jason is great, he's everything I've ever wanted. But sometimes I wonder if I'm settling for something safe because I'm afraid of getting hurt again." Jenna frowned, considering Lauren's words. There's a difference between choosing what's safe and choosing what's right for you. Just because Jason isn't like Alex doesn't mean he's not the right guy for you. You need to figure out if you're hesitating because of your past, or if it's because Jason isn't the one for you. Lauren nodded, her friend's words hitting home. "I know. It's just complicated." "It doesn't have to be," Jenna said with a smile. "If you love him, and you're happy with him, then maybe it's time to let go of the past and take that next step." Later that evening, Lauren sat alone in her apartment, thinking over her conversation with Jenna. She realized that part of her hesitation stemmed from her lingering feelings for Alex, feelings she hadn't fully dealt with. Even though she had chosen to move on, a part of her heart was still tethered to the past. In an attempt to find closure, Lauren decided to visit one of the places that held the strongest memories of her time with Alex, their favorite spot in the city, a quiet bench overlooking the East River. The next day, she made her way there, the cool autumn breeze whipping through her hair. As she sat down on the bench, the memories came flooding back. She and Alex had spent so many evenings here, talking about their dreams, their futures. But those conversations had always been one-sided. She had shared everything with him, but he had held back. He had never truly let her in. Sitting there, Lauren realized something she hadn't fully understood before. Her relationship with Alex had been passionate, yes, but it had also been built on longing for something that he had never given her. She had been in love with the idea of him, with the potential of what they could have been, rather than the reality of who they were. Jason was different. He was steady, reliable, and open. He didn't hold anything back from her. And while their relationship didn't have the same intensity as her time with Alex, it was built on something far more important: trust. Lauren took a deep breath, the weight on her chest finally lifting. She was ready to let go of Alex. for good this time. She was ready to choose the future she wanted, with someone who wanted to build it with her. That evening, Lauren went to Jason's apartment with a clear mind and heart. As they sat down for dinner, she reached for his hand across the table. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," Lauren began, her voice steady, "and I've made a decision." Jason looked at her, his expression hopeful but cautious. "Yeah?" Lauren smiled. "I want us to move in together. I'm ready." Jason's face lit up with happiness, and he squeezed her hand. "I'm so glad to hear that." They spent the rest of the evening talking excitedly about their future, about where they would live, how they would merge their lives together. For the first time in a long time, Lauren felt truly at peace with her decision. She had chosen a path that felt right for her, one that wasn't dictated by fear or uncertainty. In the weeks that followed, Lauren and Jason found a new apartment, one that was perfect for them. As they packed up their things and prepared to start this new chapter of their lives, Lauren couldn't help but feel grateful for the journey that had brought her here. She had learned so much about herself, about what she wanted and needed in a relationship. And while her time with Alex had been painful, it had also taught her the importance of choosing herself first. The morning they moved into their new place, Lauren stood in the empty living room, looking out at the city skyline. Jason came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Ready for this?" he asked, his voice soft in her ear. Lauren leaned back into him, a smile spreading across her face. More than ready. For the first time in her life, Lauren felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be, free from the past, standing firmly in the present, and excited for the future.